I think it's very difficult to be the early adopter because there's often risk associated with that.
We have been working really hard to digitise trade, and we've really focused on that. And we have seen some real great successes. We've seen transaction times really reduce.
I really enjoyed John's phrase of allowing machines to do the ordinary so humans can do the extraordinary. You think about leveraging that element with agentic AI, and the way that it will transform trade is going to be unbelievable.
Trade finance has been traditionally complex and paper intense. And digitalization in this space is complicated by a large number of counterparts, often acting in different jurisdictions, regulatory pressures, and also macroeconomic trends. From Lloyds Bank perspective, what are the biggest challenges that you face today in delivering efficient trade finance services to your customers that have increasing demands?
I think in the documentary trade space there are two key challenges that we face. One is the paper problem within trade, which you've just mentioned, Elena, and I'd say the other is the skills problem within our operations team. So if I take the first one first, the paper problem, despite the legal enablers, the technology enablers that we've seen over the last few years, trade is still dominated by paper. I think that the stats are 28 billion pieces of paper going around the world every year. We're seeing a growth in digitalisation, but it's a slow growth. And our clients, they expect a digital first experience when they're dealing with us, like they get in their other banking products. Unfortunately today, that's not the case for most clients in documentary trade. But Lloyds has been at the forefront of trying to deliver documentary trade on a digital basis, and the solution is digital trade, harnessing the Electronic Trade Documents Act to allow for documents to move seamlessly between parties at a much quicker rate, and avoiding the bottlenecks that we see in paper, the delays in financing, the delays in documents being couried all across the globe. We've been doing digital transactions since 2022. I'm pleased to say this year we've done hundreds of digital transactions. We actually did a calculation, we're between 4 and 5 times as many digital transactions in 2025 so far compared to the whole of 2024. So we are moving in the right space, but it is difficult because we've got to get all parties aligned to digitise transactions. So that's a key element that we're working on a day-to-day basis. So that's the first problem. The second problem, as I mentioned before, is the skills gap. So we know that the checking and the examination of documents under UCP and under ISBP is a skilled role within trade. It's a role I used to do when I was in operations, and it's a role that really does require years of training to get to the level you need to be able to successfully check documents. And we know that it's been spoken about a lot in the industry that there's less people moving into those type of niche roles. People who are entering the workforce today want a more broader experience in banking, and we've got people retiring who've been doing those roles for 30, 40 years. So the key thing for us is being more innovative with the staff that we have, with those experts, and using their time more effectively, getting machines to do the ordinary so they can do the extraordinary. So that's part of the reason we've teamed up with Cleareye to work at automating some of the processes with the use of our experts to check those processes and make sure that we are calling out the correct discrepancies and keeping our clients safe.
All right. I really like your expression of having people doing extraordinary things and allow machines to do the ordinary stuff. It's really great. So Andrew, from the Cleareye perspective, how do you address the automation challenges that banks face today?
So we take a very complex situation and make it very easy. So we work on 3 pillars. The first is the digitization of the document, so consuming the document into our platform, the use of AI to do that. We then enable the reading of that document by extracting the information through a very accurate way. The third pillar to that is then applying all of the various rules engines, TBMR screening, text vetting, to ensure that there's a full end-to-end process there for our clients.
Thank you. And again, I really like this approach of keeping it simple, which is imperative in such complex business as trade finance. Cleartrade integration with Finastra's trade innovation platform marks a major step forward in risk reduction, simplification, and automation. Can you share how the partnership came about and the strategic objectives of Lloyds Bank in this initiative?
Yeah, so as mentioned, we've been really keen to be really innovative and go ahead with digitalisation of trade. Even before the Electronic Trade Documents Act came into force, we were doing transactions under the contractual framework, the Digital Negotiable Instruments Initiative, and we completed a transaction on the day the Electronic Trade Documents Act came into force. We've done a number of firsts in this space, so our focus has been on that digitisation of trade and solving that paper problem. And we've been recognised for that. We've won the Best Bank for Digitalisation at the Global Trade Awards for the last 2 years in a row. But we wanted to turn our focus towards that second problem and the automation of our processes. And that was when we turned to look at what we could call intelligent automation, and that's how the Cleareye partnership began. From the outset, it was very clear to us that we wanted an integrated solution. We wanted our operations colleagues to not have to manually move data between our core processing system, Finastra, and any other solution they use, be that ClearTrade or be that another solution, a channel or anything that we use. So we've always worked to try and connect our solutions via APIs to our core processing solution, Finastra. So that was a key thing that we were looking to do. The use cases we were looking at really were that they could be broken down into 3 areas. So one is the examination of documents for primarily credits, but also collections at a lesser level. Another was trade-based money laundering, TBML, and sanction screening. So we wanted to automate some of those processes using the data that had been extracted using ClearTrade to fill that data in to automate the checks that have been done so that they can then be checked by our operational experts. We also wanted to automate the screening of nouns throughout all of those documents so that could be fed back into our sanction screening filter, which was already connected to TI+. And finally, the other key area was data and pushing data in and out of the system. So there's a lot of unstructured data in documentary trade documents, and our operational colleagues can't key all of that data into TI manually. If they did, the cases would take too long and our clients would not be getting served. But using the OCR to extract that data with Cleareye gives us the ability to take all of that data and push that into TI, which is really beneficial for us when we're looking at specific things like looking at what transactions we can digitise, who are the parties. We've got that data now to hand, which we didn't have before.
All right, thank you. Thanks, John. Andrew, do you have anything to add?
I think John sort of downplayed the role that Lloyds have within the industry. You know, they are true pioneers and they are the leaders within the industry. We are proud to work with them, and actually, much like Lloyds, we've also been recognised as a global leader within trade. I think it's very difficult to be the early adopter because there's often risk associated with that. But actually, and I think perhaps John would agree with me, they're already seeing those early rewards and are able to separate themselves when it comes to offering the full end-to-end solution.
All right, very good. Thank you. And probably from our perspective, I would like to highlight that the automation of the whole process, doc checking and compliance has become a sweet spot for many of the fintechs. We see this area growing, and the number of mature fintechs or innovative startups coming into this space is increasing. From our perspective, we at Finastra as a platform provider try to use a holistic approach, and we stay agnostic. We may integrate with any of the fintechs that come into this place. But John, I would like to ask you, why did you use Cleareye?
So it's been a long process. It's a process that started probably 4 years ago. We completed a proof of value exercise actually with a competitor to Cleareye, just to try and prove, can this be done? So we were looking at, can we use OCR machine learning to check documents? In that exercise, we looked at around 75 transactions, and we compared the discrepancies on historic transactions that we had completed to discrepancies that were picked out by the solution. And what we found was that it could check documents, this solution, at least to the level of a human check. So we were keen to then further this, and in 2023 we got the ability and the funding and the support from the bank to actually go further into this and look into this in more detail. So we started with an RFI process. We actually looked at 18 different companies that offer solutions of this type. Some of those solutions were trade specific, like Cleareye is. Some of them were more agnostic as to the use case, and you built your own rules. As part of that exercise, we had a few key things that we were looking for from any solution. One was that we wanted a trade-specific solution. We knew that to codify all of the ICC rules would be a large task, and we knew that some of the companies had already done that, so we wanted to buy that off the shelf. And the second key thing for us was, although we were very digital first and we were first to market with a lot of the digital trade stuff, we wanted to actually go with a tried and tested solution when it came to the automation side of things. So we were keen for the partner we went with to be live with other banks, and most importantly, we wanted those other banks to provide us with qualitative and quantitative evidence that the solution was working for them. So after that RFI process, we moved into an RFP process with 3 parties, and there was a full RFP completed and a robust POC completed, where we took 35 transactions, not all of them documentary trade transactions, some also just compliance transactions. We ran those same 35 transactions through all 3 solutions, and at the end of that process we made the decision to pick Cleareye. And to give you a bit of an idea of some of the reasons we picked Cleareye, some of the things that stood out was their out-of-the-box TBML and compliance check-in was something that was a key thing that we were looking for. And another thing was just their client-first approach. We had a lot of bespoke requests that were governed by the way we handled our trade today, and that were key for us because it was a very big change moving from manual docs check-in to this. We wanted to keep as many of the processes aligned to what we do today as possible. And Cleareye were happy to accommodate those changes, and we felt that we could build a great relationship with them, which I think we have.
Amazing, and thank you for sharing the details of the process. I know that it is really important for our audience to understand how you've made this choice and how you made this decision. And what are you already seeing, and what do you expect to see as a result of this process?
So we've been live with the integrated solution, so that's a full integration from Finastra TI into Cleareye, but also back to Cleareye, so it's bi-directional, for just under 6 months now.
Yep.
We're already seeing some results, so 2 of the key processes that we targeted for this, we're actually seeing efficiency time savings on an average transaction in the area of around 40%. So that's really positive. There's still some work to be done on some of the other key transactional events, but we're confident that we will be able to find efficiency savings. The key things for us is efficiency savings, risk reduction, and standardisation, so that we're always calling out the same things for any document examination that we complete.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Andrew, could you elaborate on these numbers, on the statistics, and what else you can actually bring to Lloyd's experience, what they can expect next?
Sure. So I think in terms of the numbers, that they're very self-explanatory, and that's what we would expect with the return on investment with our clients. I think the thing that's often overlooked with these digital transformation programs is the work that goes into it from a strategic partnership. We really need to understand the problem statement and take the people with us, and we often speak about it in terms of bringing the people on that journey. So we take a very client-first approach, as John mentioned, but it's really around having flexibility. Every financial institution we work with is very similar, but also so different. The processes within each FI is unique, so therefore we have to be flexible. In terms of what next, we have a huge roadmap that we've shared with Lloyds already. There's various investments coming from both sides in terms of where we're going, so it's super exciting.
All right, very good. And I really like this customer-first approach. And probably for us, from the fintech perspective, we always say that technology is there, and it's just up to us to take it to the place where it is most needed. Technology is very important in this process, and we always say that this is an enabler. And maybe if we could talk about the challenges that we have overcome through the process of solving the issue of interoperability of the systems, integrating Cleareye and Finastra Trade Innovation. John, maybe if you could elaborate on this topic a little bit?
So with any kind of project to connect the 2 systems, there are always kind of complexities and issues, but I think we've overcome them well. We're now live with all of the connections we wanted to make between Finastra, TI Plus and Cleareye ClearTrade. I think the biggest challenge was actually not an interoperability one that we had. It was more of mindset one in our operations team, and building out that new process. So as I say, I worked in our operations team for 10 years myself. I've seen a lot of change go in. I've seen all of the various different versions of TI go in and the changes that happen there. I've seen workflow systems change. But looking back, this is the biggest change for our colleagues that we've ever seen. It's a complete mindset change from checking documents in front of you in paper or on screen to actually doing an extraction process and then checking the rules to ensure that the right discrepancies are being picked up. So that was a key one, and there was a competency curve that we had to get over there. But the Cleareye team have been brilliant. So one of the things we've done with our colleagues is we've had sessions with them internally, but we've also had the experts in the Cleareye team sit on Microsoft Teams meetings on a one-to-one basis with our colleagues and watch them process in this new way. And they've been able to identify ways of working that can speed things up. And this efficiency gain is really something that we've just seen in the last couple of months. It's been quite a steep curve, but we have seen that move, and I think a lot of that has been down to the work we've done to bring those colleagues forward. But I can't express enough how much of a change it is for our colleagues, and our colleagues have been really brilliant in taking on that change. I remember when I used to check documents, some of the things required knowledge and skill around UCP, but if you had an itemised invoice, for instance, you could be checking 17 pages of lined invoice against 17 pages of a packing list, and a machine is always going to be able to do that better than a human, but there are elements that you're always going to need the human to check to interpret those rules, and I think we've got a good mix now.
No, absolutely, and this is such a big shift from changing from a manual process and very much human-focused process into the automated one. And Andrew, what are the learnings that you may share with us after this process?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I think change is painful for a number of reasons, and people have to embrace that. They have to realize, or we have to realize, it's a journey we have to go on together. It's all well and good having tools and people and fragmented processes, but unless you can really look at the full journey, that's when the magic really happens of understanding each step of the process. So I think the key learnings of working with pioneers is that, it's very much understanding from the outset what good looks like and really being very communicative. The other point is being completely honest with where we are. A lot is said between expectations, return on investment. The long tail to get there is quite often forgotten. So we're very close with our clients and very open with how we work. I think also a point on where fintechs are in the ecosystem. You noted there's huge innovation. I think there's also a spectrum where they sit. You have the full out of the box capability that has no customization, that cannot be flexed, that becomes very, very rigid. You also then have the hugely customized product that is very bespoke, but also super expensive and doesn't scale. I think those partners that are strategic and sit in the middle and can flex, I think that's where clients can win faster and collectively move quicker as well.
Amazing. As trade finance continues to evolve, how do you continue to innovate finance together?
We've still got a lot of work to do on our BAU project. As I say, we've seen some great benefits on some of the processes, but we're working hard to ensure that they extended to the other processes that we do. But we are already looking at electronic processes and how we can utilise Cleartrade to bring more efficiencies there. So some of the things I can share with you, on the roadmap we're looking at the electronic rules for the ICC, so EURC, EUCP. We're starting to see more of those transactions. We always try to use those rules with our digital transactions, so we're starting to see more transactions come in that utilise those rules, and we're trying to work with Cleareye to put the rules in to Cleartrade that allow for checking against those e-rules. So that's a collaboration that Lloyds and Cleareye are working on. And another thing, we've been working with our other partner, Anigio, who we use to digitise trade documents, to look at the next stage for digital trade documents. So for the digital trade documents that we do for most of the transactions today, there is still an unstructured data in that document. The document may be a document of title that is created on a reliable system under the ETDA, but the data is still unstructured in that document. Now, Cleartrade can be used as it can for paper documents for that. But what we're looking at now is how can we put structured data into the document so that it can be machine read rather than it being read via OCR. So Cleareye, Lloyds and Ego, we did a proof of value exercise maybe 2 months ago.
That's right. Yep.
We looked at putting structured data into a key transport document into a transaction that we were doing with one of our clients, and actually looking at, can we read that document on Cleareye? So on the ClearTrade solution, we put that document into the solution. We were able to extract 100% of the data that was embedded, and compared to OCR, where you'd expect that to be around 90%, that's a saving. So it doesn't sound like a lot, 90% to 100, but if you add that up with all of the documentation and the data points, it would create a big efficiency. We know that this is something that's going to happen overnight, but this would require structured data to be embedded by the people who create the documents, but we think it's something that in the coming years will happen as we move towards the targets that the ICC have set and the Fit Alliance have set for digitisation. So it's something we're keen to broaden across all of the key documents that were identified by the ICC in the key trade documents and data elements report that came out a couple of years ago.
All right, thank you. Thanks, John. Andrew, from your perspective?
So I think John mentioned the work we've done with Enigio, and that's something we're super proud of and is moving very, very fast. I think reflecting on the transformation journey that trade finance is on, and where it was 5 years ago to where it is this year and to where it's going next year, I think that's the bit that becomes super exciting. I think the digitization of documents will become table stakes probably in 24 months' time. It's the use of AI tooling and Gen AI tools that becomes even more exciting thereafter. I really enjoyed John's phrase of allowing machines to do the ordinary so humans can do the extraordinary. You think about leveraging that element with agentic AI, and the way that it will transform trade is going to be unbelievable.
Thank you so much, guys, for sharing the insights, and hopefully in 24 months' time we can gather together and share the further details of our collaboration.